All right, welcome back. When last we spoke, we had just made our very first sort of blank or template quarto document, and I'm going to remind everyone how we did that. File, new file, and then quarto document, and that brought up this window right here, this floating window in the middle, and I just added some extra information. The title field will end up going over here where it says title colon, and the author will go right here where it says author colon. I don't need this. I don't need another one. I already have one. And I'm choosing HTML. And again, I mentioned that for later, whenever you turn in homework and projects, you'll choose Microsoft Word simply so that I can use track changes to give you feedback. Um, but anyway, so we've created our very first Quarto document. Let's talk about what these sections are. What's going on? So the first thing we see is the metadata header. Okay, that is this bit of code right here. This is where you tell the computer what's going on in this document and what's important about it and so forth, and just other information that the computer might need to know, or other people that find your file might need to know. So it's going to say, well, what's the title? And notice that the fields also all use this, like the name of the field and then colon syntax. So the title is my first quarto, still in quotes, but it's not title equals, it's title colon. And then author colon, and that's really saying that the author is, and then again, quote, Gabriel Odom. Now this code, which we don't see in our version, it's some kind of gobbledygook about whatever in the world is going on. We will talk about a little bit more of what all of this stuff means later down here in our lesson on, where's our lesson on strings? Right here. Probably we'll cover a little bit in our lesson 10 on strings. But for now, basically what we're saying is it's going to calculate the date that's in your computer, and it'll put that date there for you, whatever today's date is. So you don't have to type the date every time. But anyway, so yeah, again, this looks crazy. Don't worry about it for now. And honestly, whenever you start it, it may not even show up for you anyway. It's okay. If you wanted to add it, we would just hit enter and type date and then a colon. And notice it's giving me an option. It's giving me like this prompt that says, okay, well, what should this be? And it should be the date of the document. So whatever today's date is. I don't need this field for now, so I'm going to get rid of it. The output type. So sorry, yes, the format of the document, and then again, so we've got this key value pair where the connector between the key and value is a single colon. The format of the document is going to be HTML, i.e., we're going to be building a web page. We're not putting it on the internet, but we're going to build a web page that we can look at. Okay, so now the next thing we see is some code chunks. So let's go back up here. Right here, these are some basic code chunks. This is a code chunk with an option. And I'm going to look at this code chunk because this one's a little bit more complex, closer to what you would actually see in practice. So code chunks start with code chunk delimiters. They're these backticks, and that's where what we do is if we want a new code chunk, we need to type 3 backticks. Now, some of you may not be able to see the backticks on your keyboard. If you have a standard North American keyboard, the backtick is going to be the key right next to the number 1 up at the top left of your keyboard. If you have a keyboard from another region, let's say that you have a South American keyboard, I'm not sure what other regions in the world have keyboards that don't have backticks. If you don't have backticks on your keyboard, come talk to me. What you could do right now is just Google backtick, and then you can copy it here. So copy it out of Google. But it's kind of interesting. Backtick symbol missing on my keyboard. Let's see, what regions? Okay, so yeah, it's usually located at the top left corner of a standard computer keyboard directly below the escape button, but some don't have Some regions of the world you don't have a backtick key. Anyway, so the three backticks. This is where we tell the computer, okay, this is the end of English. So all of this stuff is English, sort of. It looks like something that you could put in an email, basically. And then you're telling the computer, okay, all of that stuff that I was typing that's for humans, that's done. You computer, you pay attention now. I want you to start using some computer code. And you need to tell it what kind of code. That's where the letter R comes in. If we were typing in Python, you would type the word Python here. If we were using Julia, you would use Julia there. I saw maybe a little while ago, probably about a year ago, I saw a presentation where someone had connected SAS. So they were able to actually type SAS code in here, and it only worked on Windows machines because SAS doesn't work on Macs, or not without a lot of effort. Um, and so their document would actually, they could run SAS code inside of one of these documents. But whatever it is, if you want to use Python, just use Python all the way through. Now, obviously, this is an R class, so for this class, you're going to be using R. But for other stuff, if you want to use another language, that's fine. You just have to make sure it's supported, and you're going to have to figure it out. Don't come to me and be like, I want to learn how to write whatever code in my Quarto document. I probably won't be able to help you. I'm sorry. But if you want to learn, I mean, more power to you. I always like people. I always like it when people learn some more stuff. But anyway, so here's the computing language. We're going to be using the R computing language. So I specify that here. And then I can add chunk options right here. So the way that I add a chunk option is with the pound sign, or for the younger generations, the hashtag sign. And then this is a different kind of code comment. Okay. So in regular R, if I type a code comment, this is a code comment. Notice that this code is kind of like and for those of you who have trouble with like color blindness, or you have trouble seeing different colors, I apologize ahead of time. The RStudio IDE is designed, it uses color to help you. Notice that this color is like a greenish color, but this color is more like a steel blue or gray color, if you will. And that's because we added this extra pipe, this up and down thing. So if I get rid of this pipe, it changes color. It says this is an R comment, but if I add the pipe back, which should be just underneath the backspace key or the delete key on the far top right of your keyboard, it changes colors. And so it's ready to track that this is an option for how the code in this chunk should be executed, okay? So they are called chunk options, okay? And then the label key, so if I add a label, this is a chunk name. We're not going to, like, you should add chunk names for all of your chunks, and I'll just go I'll add a chunk name right now. So I'm going to do the pound sign and then a pipe and say label colon a code chunk name. The way I typed it that way on purpose, but we'll talk about that. I don't know if we're going to talk about it today. I don't think we're going to talk about it in this video, but anyway, I use what is called a shish kebab case. You can think that there's like a skewer that's stuck, that's holding all of the words together. Realistically, it's just because it's usually not good to put spaces in the names of an object or names of a code chunk or something like that. All right, so then there's options in R. So this option says run all of the code chunks, and you see when I hold my mouse above it, it gives me a little prompt. It says run all of the chunks up to this point. And then this one says run the current chunk, run this chunk right now. So if I open up my console a little bit, there's a review. If I want to clear out all of this information because I don't need it, it's Control L. Just clear it out, get rid of that. And I can click the play button, and that will run. It will include my comment. It will say, this is a code comment. Notice it didn't actually do anything. And then it executes 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 equals 2, at least it was the last time we checked. And R agrees with us. Thankfully, we're all aware that 1 + 1 is equal to 2. All right. And then this is code. This is just right. This is our code. You may not understand any of this. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know what this stuff does right now. You'll learn it eventually over the course of the semester, or you'll at least be able to be more comfortable reading what all this says. We see right here that this is a comment, though. It starts with the pound sign, and then it says why we're doing this. And so this next piece of code is to suppress the grouped by messages or whatever. And so there's this piece of code that turns off those messages. Now, one last thing to notice is that there's a gray background here. So I'll close this real quick. There's white background everywhere else. Everywhere else in the document is white, except until I hit these 3 code chunks, or these 3 backticks here and 3 backticks here. This is gray, and it's calling attention to you. This is not for the computer. The computer doesn't care what color it is. It could be pink. It could be blue. It could be striped and spotted. It doesn't matter. It could be wearing plaid and sequins. A horrible fashion faux pas, but the computer does not care. Okay? The computer does not care that there is a gray background here. This is for you. This is for the human that has to interact with this code. And it's so that your eyes immediately see there's something special going on here. What is it? Well, it is our computer code. This is not a normal part of a document. This part of the document has to be executed by the computer. Okay? So we've kind of wrapped our head around all of this. So here's an example one which we've talked to. The backticks are super important. The option here, echo equals false, means that this code chunk will not be included in the report output, and so forth and so on. So read through all of this, and this is where we want to. I think the last thing we want to do is render our report and take a look at our work. So that's going to be our exercise right here. We want to save it. And then for Mac users, the Mac operating system does not add file extensions, so you have to do it manually. I recommend that you do it regardless. And here's why. It doesn't actually change how the file operates on your computer. But if you go to email this file to someone else, or if you use something like GitHub, a lot of times it's nice to have the file extensions on the file name so that everybody, no matter what operating system you're working on, all has basically the same names for the files. So I recommend that you use the .r extensions for R files. .qmd is the extension for Quarto documents. So go ahead and save this. We're gonna pause here, give you a chance to work. All right, so I believe everybody's had a chance to save their file. And this is when I save it, notice I've got this thing called untitled.qmd over here in my files. This is a really bad place for this. I'm going to end up moving this or deleting this later. But for now, you should give it a more informative name that's helpful for you. But anyway, once we have it saved, we can click this button to render this. And we specified above that we wanted an HTML file, so we're expecting this to render as a web page. Well, let's find out. All right, so notice here that it opened up a new window right here called Background Jobs. And it also, once it was done, it rendered my document. It built my web page, including the "this is a code" comment, and my title, my first Quarto document. Here's the author. Notice it doesn't have a date field because we left it blank. And we can see that this is regular English, and here is code. Also notice what happens when we said, I don't want you to show the code, set echo to be equal to false. It only shows the output of the code. It doesn't show the code itself. Okay. So I've got this file. Also, a couple of other things to notice is that on my computer, wherever I saved untitled.qmd, it also gives me the website files. So this is a folder called untitled_files, and then an HTML document. This is my website.html. This is actually something pretty cool that's new with RStudio. If I make changes to this, notice here that it says it's a local host. I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what this new background jobs thing is saying. This says that it is watching files for changes. So if I make a change over here and I say this is a code comment, it helps me understand why I'm doing this operation. And if I render this and go back over here, it will update the document automatically. Now, it took a minute. It took, a couple of seconds at least, but it added this automatically to my document. So this is recommended for you. As you're writing these things for the first time, leave this previewer open in your browser so that you can go back and forth and make changes here and see how they show up over here so that you can practice your formatting and so forth. All right, and that's where we're going to pause. We went a little bit longer in this video. We'll pick back up we'll pick back up with how to work with this document very shortly.